I don't love reading. If you may just meet me where I'm at, first and foremost, not a morning person. Hey, some people just hope to wake up in time, not ahead of it. I'm some people. We're waking up already with about 70% of battery on a good day. This is chronic illness edition. Although you absolutely don't need to have a chronic illness to relate to never feeling quite refreshed. This will become relevant. I have a feeling this day is going to look very familiar to a lot of you. We do some work, then we have a personal crisis on the floor for lunch. Very nutritious, highly recommend. More work until we can log off. At this point, we're running on fumes and we lie to ourselves that we're going to spend the evening reading, but in 5 minutes, we just grab our phone and go on TikTok or whatever else is your poison and spend the rest of the evening there. Here's something slightly controversial. I actually think reading slumps are kind of great and needed. I think they happen for a reason.
So just don't read, right?
I don't know, man. This one has been going on for such a long time now, and it feels significant enough to threaten my identity as a reader. I actually think it's pretty simple. Reading stopped recharging me, and so I stopped reaching for it. Now that we know that, can we fix it? Because it's a bit of a shit pickle. I would like to fix it. Even despite never caring about reading things as soon as they come out, I am stuck permanently feeling like I'm behind something. Things are always constantly fighting for my attention, whilst my attention span is short-circuiting due to overwhelm. Now, I'm not going to sit here and blame it entirely on TikTok, but was our attention span modeled for bite-sized entertainment seeking a new topic and hook every 10 to 20 seconds? Sure. But I crave a long commitment with my stories. I know this about myself because I seek out TV shows over movies 9 times out of 10. Give me months of being in one world and I'll take it. But shows being coded for multiple screen viewing has broken me down. You would think reading would be the answer. So why does it not feel like it?
I don't know.
I am on TikTok because the bite-sized videos are an effective distraction of my burned out brain. I'm not blind to it, but it is not restorative. It's a coping mechanism which only delays. Recently, I have found anxiety is knocking at my door again, and if there's one thing it thrives on, it's deflection and avoidance. So let us not avoid. Is this a habit that ran away, or is trying to make it habitual is what makes it lose its spark? Maybe I have decision fatigue. Maybe I just have damn fatigue in general. I do live with chronic pain, which makes it just that extra fun and special to navigate everything. I do know burnout is very real, and it's not just reading that has suffered from this. I've not touched crochet in a while as well, but reading used to be something that helped me through it. So what happened? And can I reverse it?
If this experiment, spark finder, whatever we want to call this, fails, well, it can't actually fail, because if I still don't find the joy in reading, reframe it in my mind, perhaps the season of the reading was a season. Perhaps going forward, I'm just a bit more casual reader. It's not my main hobby.
Oh, the identity crisis.
Maybe I need to have a break, divorce it for a little bit. I'm not kidding myself here as well. I am fully aware that burnout is the real reason for a lot of things going on currently in my life. I'm aware it's going to take much more than this to address it. This might not even address it at all. And I have a bit more control over my reading compared to everything else. So I thought, fuck it, we'll start somewhere and see what happens. And if not, then not. Additionally, the way that I've set this up, there's absolutely nothing revolutionary here. Nothing. I'm giving myself a little bit more leeway here, not judging myself much. Free time plus also work time. It's all so around books that I'm actually surprised that I'm only finding myself in this situation now rather than years ago. If everything else fails, I can reframe being burnt out as cringe in my mind for extra motivation, because it's like, what do you mean you're burning yourself to keep others warm? What do you mean you're failing to regulate things? What do you mean you don't respect your own time, so you find yourself in places like this? Like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? So what are we trying to do? Well, one, we are actually not adding any super strict rules. These are going to be so incredibly self-explanatory and obvious that I feel almost silly naming it, but reading books that I'm genuinely in that moment excited for is such a simple thing. Don't have a pre-planned TBR. I do have a Hail Mary, pun intended, for first reread in ever. But that I do think will work in my favor here. But outside of that, I'm only gonna read what I really want to read. I'm gonna take my time picking what I want to read, make that part of the exciting process. And again, I am fully aware this is just how people read. Like, I understand how stupid this is, okay? But like, bear with me. We're trying something. I do also want to go back to reading at least 3 things at a time: an audiobook, ebook, and a physical book. And I specifically want to make these separate. I don't want to cross read for some reason. I will be, again, very flexible. If I do want to do that, I can. Other little bits. The main primary task on this outside of this is just really give way more respect for my own time. Doom scrolling on my phone does nothing for me, for the fact that I have a very finite time. I could die tomorrow. Like, I don't know. But if I don't, I don't know, with my health and everything, I'm probably not like pushing 100, you know? So I need to respect my own time for how I spend it when I have it free. But also, I am not here with a plan of eradicating social media out of my life. Actually, not at all. I want to actually be even more involved on social media. I don't want to be stuck in a loop where I'm clearly just have very limited energy left. Perhaps I'm in a pain flare-up, having a bad day, had a really exhausting work day, very demanding, and I simply feel like I cannot do anything else but be numb with a bite-sized entertainment that distracts me enough so I don't hear my inner monologue pre-planning, worrying about things, focusing on how much it hurts or something. But if I find myself in a place where I really just need something else, I want to replace that with long-form content. And the only strategy that I currently have, and hopefully we're gonna build a bit more later on, is that whilst I am abandoning most of my hobbies at the moment, I am, however, playing more. That's one that actually is helping. I'm playing Peak sometimes with friends, but that's obviously like not acceptable for what we're doing now. Stardew Valley, however, I'm back to playing Stardew Valley. I have an audiobook of a book that I'm rereading, Project Hail Mary, for a book club. That's the only book that I haven't, that I actually do need to get to soon. So why not combine something I enjoy doing with something that I have already loved and gave 5 stars to, something that I know I can pay enough attention because it's a reread. This could open a brand new world for me, I feel. Like, I don't know, it just seems like combining those two could like reignite something for me. So somehow I feel like I won't be the only one here, and perhaps we're gonna come up with some sort of tidbit and knowledge crumb that could be beneficial to you. And if not, and if you just want to like have a long form content while you're eating rather than scrolling, maybe this will just do that. What you just saw was actually almost 6 months ago, so it's been near 6 months of me trying different things to restore my reading to various levels of success. Spoiler alert. They were really scattered throughout, but let me walk you through some of them.
Shop your shelves is the advice I've been seeing around for a little while, and I thought, you know what, that is a good advice. I should take it. So that is what I did. I walked myself to the shelves and I pretended I am at the bookstore. I was looking for something that would be a little bit different from what I've been reading recently, and specifically was looking for something I can dig in physically, because I was really wanting to dedicate some time to physically just sit with the book, like the good old days. And for me, that is usually something that has a slight different format. That is how I would like to ease myself back into this, because historically I've always had good luck with that.
I think I have somewhat of a plan. For my ebook, I'm actually going to continue The Glittering Edge.
I, in fact, did not do this.
And the other one, completely random, literally just from browsing. The Mysterious Case of the Alperton Angels was written in like interview format. And I think for a physical read, this could be fantastic. And I think it could be perfect for getting some inertia back in. Obviously, in this case, we don't have these massive long paragraphs that normally is what slows me down and gets me to pick up my phone.
Honestly, I have such fond memories of this, and I remember thinking after reading this, maybe I just was in my head. Maybe I'm not even in the slump, because I kept wanting to go back to the book. The chapters were exciting, the pages were quick. I got into the mood of it. I almost started gaslighting myself that there's actually no problem at all, but this method, whilst extremely fitting for me, it is so incredibly book dependent that with the wrong book, I think is just a regular reading experience. But with the right book, this is a certified slump antidote. I'm gonna give it 8.5 out of 10.
Experiment number 1. Make sure I didn't accidentally breed up some super Talnita that can live in pure nitrogen.
Funny how I have really underutilized rereading as a tool in general. I think this experience was a very good reminder that if I wanted to purely build reading as a habit, rereading is a very good way to go because it is perfect for days where my brain is not quite at capacity or even wish to comprehend a new world, pay full attention. Rereads are perfect, especially rereads that I haven't read in a while because I remember the core idea, but the details are foggy. So the intrigue is still there and it's not boring because one thing with me is that I just cannot reread immediately. I feel if I remember too much, I immediately get a little bit too bored. Combining it with gaming was actually very fun. This was when I was still in my hyperfixation again with Stardew Valley. It comes and goes throughout the years. Really enjoyed this. I think it was such a pleasant experience. It really helps that I've reread something that was initially a 5-star and thankfully remained a 5-star. I've learned a couple of things with this one. One, I am actually capable of rereads, which genuinely was a question in my mind, so that is very good to know. And two, that rereading while gaming is a maximum comfort activity as well as a low-key habit building tool. The limitation of this is that I have a selective pool of books to pick from that does include rereads and contemporary books and nonfiction. I have now firmly decided I do not do new books with gaming. It just is not a good combination for me. I think it does the opposite. I do a book and myself a disservice, and very happy to know that now. As this took a while, we did have a round of Magical Readathon, and it genuinely justified its name to me personally this time around. I truly did need a little bit of magic for my reading, and it delivered. It was a combination of 3 things. 1, setting up my TBR loosely, but with structure, so I still had options and wiggle room, but a plan. 2, going into it with all of these aforementioned things at the forefront of my mind, being very cautious and aware of my reading time and reading ways. And I think importantly, number 3 was the sense of community, having someone to genuinely share the joys and the woes and the whole experience of reading, not to mention having communal goals whilst reading. It just all kind of really came together, and I think in this round in particular just really helped me where I clearly very obviously needed that help. Secretly, my TBR for the spring equinox very much followed the rules of this experiment. I even included a book by the same author like the Alperton Angels, and is written exactly in the same weird format. But if I had to single out a book that helped me the most in this entire journey, in this entire experiment, I would have to attribute that to The First Time Caller. This would definitely fall into the category of read what you feel like reading, and it was such a pleasant surprise. For me, at this particular time, in this particular way, participating in a readathon was exactly what I needed, and I would give it 10 out of 10. Do I think it's always applicable? No, but this time it 100% was. If the phone is the culprit, it makes sense to put it in jail on a good timeout. I'm not gonna lie, I really thought this is going to be the answer. This is going to improve my focus, improve my reading experience, and no one's going to be more surprised than I am that this one just did not work for me. I didn't find it any easier to focus. I didn't find it have any effect on it actually. If I wanted to be distracted, I found other ways to get distracted. In the past, I've also tried apps where you plant a tree or knit socks so you cannot access anything on your phone, but you can have it nearby. It was a similar effect. So I think personally for me, this is maybe a 3 out of 10. It helps somewhat, but no big success. So if gaming is out, what else do I have hobby-wise that I can combine with reading to basically hobby max? Crocheting has always been my go-to. I just really go through stages of not wanting to do it. However, I have rekindled my love for it. It does, however, have a caveat of pattern depending. Some patterns just do not lend themselves to listening to anything because they're too disruptive. You have to pause too often to check what's next or have to actively count. However, with the right project, it's a very decent companion. How about a fun creative project where you don't have anything particular in mind and just want to play with the colors while you're listening to something, especially if you combine it with taking inspiration from the story you're actually listening and just let it lead the way. I was listening to Atmosphere and I had a lot of fun. I have very fond memories of this day. I will say, however, I did have a day off, and this does require a substantial amount of time if you just allow yourself to have it. And I did. And honestly, I would say 8 out of 10. But again, the caveat is that I don't think I would be able to do this very often. It's also quite messy. You have a lot of cleanup to do. So, time allowing, energy allowing, but I did have a lot of fun with it. So I would award it high score, but with a little asterisk of realistically, it won't be happening often. That being said, because I somewhat themed accidentally the entire day and the activities on the book, I feel like the story actually left a bigger mark on my brain. Even if I didn't necessarily love the book to a 5-star level, I remember it. The staple, the one and only, the given, the walk. Take your book with you. It's good for your mental health. It's good for your reading. It's fun all around, right? Well, not quite. One thing about this experiment and being very mindful of the activities and the effect the surrounding things have on me whilst I try to read, whichever format it is by, I learned some lessons. And one of the most surprising ones is that walking works absolutely not at all for me, with some very rare exceptions, so it is a 3 out of 10.
I would say I'm experiencing humble levels of success. The issue is definitely not entirely solved. I think overall it's definitely not something that has a quick fix. I do now have some ways of balancing it out a little bit more. I do currently feel like I'm actively on the way, fall back in love with reading. I wouldn't quite say that I'm there yet, but I'm definitely in a much better place than I was 6, 7, 8 months back. Funnily enough, some of the things that I tried just did not stick. For example, one of the biggest ones is trying to yap less during my Patreon sprints. I think I, succeeded a couple of first times I've done it after I made that a quote-unquote goal, and then immediately abandoned it because I love the app. Removing something that I actually enjoy and brings me joy and fulfillment and a sense of belonging made actual zero sense for this. Why would I remove something that I know is feeding my soul in a sense of hopefully maybe adding a little bit more of something that perhaps will? Zero sense. So that one we have abandoned. Locking my phone away or putting any type of strict boundary on I cannot touch it, I cannot do anything on it, this is a specific reading, dedicated time, did not work for me. I think when I put more attention onto the fact that I cannot touch my phone, that sends my mind thinking of the phone, therefore having the exact opposite effect of what we're trying to achieve here. Don't think that I need to treat myself as a type of toddler. It clearly doesn't work on me, ironically, because I do think I react very much like a toddler being told that they cannot do something, resulting in them absolutely and definitely wanting to do that, even if they wouldn't have otherwise. So that one didn't quite work for me. It has its own time and place, but I feel restricting access to something just makes me think about having said access rather than focusing on what I'm doing. I can see the benefit of that because it takes away the decision making and you just put yourself into this is it, this is what we're doing, and I'm not touching my phone for an hour. So I totally understand why that would work. I think for myself, and then I get into a whole inner monologue and I feel like I'm genuinely disrespecting myself by putting myself in some sort of timeout box, and I'm like, come on. And the last one was actually one of the bigger revelations of this, because historically I have done this and I have found times where I was really interested in it, but I think it would take a very particular read. And this is specifically for audiobooks. Walking while listening to audiobooks. I found that actually speeds up my slump. I love to listen to something, but I think it has to be music. I have too much time when I walk in my brain. I have a very strong monologue and inner thoughts going. It will speak over an audiobook. 8 times out of 10, I will stop listening. I will have to rewind. And a lot of the times I don't know exactly where I started talking over it and going into my own monologue internally and paying half attention. One thing about me, I hate going back into audiobooks because I still picked up some words, but I didn't quite give it the attention it needed. I don't like rereading sections. So oftentimes I would just be like, well, I've gathered enough and I'll get the rest of it out of context. And if it's important enough, it will come back. Do you know what happens if, let's say, a good chunk, even just 30% of the book was listened in this way, you get so detached from the story. All the details fail you. And ultimately, it ruins the experience because then it's washed out. You're not as invested. You are making your mind busier because you're trying to have a walk, listen to an audiobook, but the inner monologue wins over because you're not doing a manual enough task, I guess, for cognition to kick in to not leave the space for the monologue. And so your mind is taking in the auditory input while also yapping at you at itself. And if anything, you just come out of it even more drained. This was a very big key for me because not even a tiny bit was that experience relaxing or restorative. And obviously that was the whole point of this experiment. And I think that was such a big key of me understanding what's happening. And I come out of it just tired and lukewarm towards the book at best. So there's a disservice of the book, disservice to myself. I found that now I mainly opt for music and I start daydreaming and I just lean into it and I sing in my mind, and it's such a better experience. If nothing else came out of this experiment, I think that alone was worthwhile. But also surprising because I thought, like walking is one of the things that people recommend the most. So to find that personally, actually, it very much does not work for me. Now, what did work is audiobooking with correct activities. Correct for me. I clearly needed to find an activity that balances doing something busy enough, still leaves plenty of attention span, and actually maybe even increases my attention span to the audiobook I'm listening. Something in my cognition obviously takes enough space to not allow my inner monologue to come in. I've rediscovered doing my nails is one of the peak activities for audiobook listening. It's such a little ritual. I know exactly what I'm doing, but it's detailed and I'm doing stuff constantly, and the audiobook is just a perfect companion. And I have also obviously tried listening to an audiobook while painting. That also worked pretty well. So anything visual perhaps that requires a little bit more motor skill involved than just walking, which is a very automatic approach, is clearly the preferred choice for me, and a good balance, because whilst listening to an audiobook and gaming was great, it so depends on the game. My brain does love to talk and narrate what I'm doing in the game. And then also crocheting sometimes really works with an audiobook, especially if it's, again, complex enough, but not requiring me to constantly do math. So then I can actually do a repetition of something. Also works. So it's just finding exactly what calibrates with it. So success. Mixing up the genres, of course it works. Why wouldn't it? And also having more than just one book going at a time also works. But I also found that despite even having those options, I actually swap between books still very, very rarely. So I'm clearly more one story at the time for books at the moment, but I have occasionally dipped into a different format if I just felt like it really fitted what I'm doing. That specifically is for audiobooks though, because if I'm reading something physically and I really want to read something physically, I'm not gonna just download an audiobook just for the sake of it. That one's still a bit like work in progress. I'm still in the process of deciding exactly what is the better alternative and what's the best balance. I have already suspected, but I have now definitely confirmed to myself that I really miss reading physically. But I'm also falling back in love with audiobooks because I understand what works better for it. Again, removing walking whilst listening to an audiobook has been fantastic. That plus also really understanding how picky I actually am with the narrator has been a game changer. That one already started a little bit before the experiment, but just embracing my pickiness and just opting out of the audiobooks if I'm even a little bit dubious from the sample if I will like it or not. Also, I would say contributed well to me getting back into reading. The jury is still out on whether I would prefer to set myself some TBRs or completely go blindly and follow a mood reading, because if I'm following the mood reading and I'm not particularly in a super excited spot with reading, I'll opt out of reading entirely and I'll find something else, which is fine. I never want to actually force myself to do anything differently. I think if I want to watch a show, I should watch a show. The moment you start forcing yourself to read, I think you land in this situation. But I am still kind of finding a balance. What I have started doing, and it wasn't set up as a goal, it's just something that came out of me actively doing this. I made what I call kind of fluid TBR list. So this list is capped at 10 books, 10 titles. If it's less, that's better. But every time I want to put something on there, I have to then physically remove something else from it as well. The Fluid TBR is essentially books that some community members, be that just Instagram or Patreon or here on YouTube, or something particular someone said really excited me, you know, like a little spark and thinking, oh my god, that could be actually very fun. Or this one seems like a divisive book. I would love to know which side of the argument I myself land, because, you know, it's fun. So I'm trying to put things that are either current and exciting, and I would like to jump on the wagon and see how that goes, because I don't do that often and I think it could be fun. And also, other people's excitement and genuine love and enjoyment of books is very contagious, and I love seeing that, so I think I should really embrace it and see how it goes. And then also things that I just remembered I wanted to read and never finished after like sampling it or something, or random books that I thought like, you know what, I think it's time, I kind of want to read that, I'm in the mood for it. I put it on the list. If you would like to see how the list looks like currently, let me know. I can arrange. I found having that list as a crutch and as an excitement generator actually worked brilliantly, and that was not something that I had in mind going into this, but that's something that genuinely just came out of it naturally. So chuffed about that.
Recalibrating my personal reading ways would probably be the most accurate title for this experiment, which is interesting because it only became clear once I started editing, probably towards the end. So do I love reading? Yes, I would say that I do. It just took me a little bit of conscious effort and time to remind myself why and recalibrate ways of how. As I said, I feel like I will absolutely not be the only one in this position of slight identity crisis. And I would genuinely really, really love to hear your experience, your thoughts, your ways of finding the correct balance, your preferred reading methods, and how you keep your reading time genuine, special, and restorative. So if you at all feel like it, please leave a comment. I would love to hear from you, and I hope you enjoyed this.